And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing Only Murders in the Building, episode number 7, The Boy from 6B. If you've not hit the sub button or hit the like, please do so. Leave a comment. Hell of an episode. It's full spoilers, so here we go. Wow. I think I texted that to you, Spencer, after I finished the episode. You had texted me like, "Hey, have you seen the episode yet?" And I was like, "No." And you're like, "Watch it." And I watched it, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Not only do we get a brilliantly creative episode in terms of how it was presented to us, we also get tons of revelations and actual reveals about what exactly is going on. A lot of questions answered. Obviously, the big thing, the entire episode, it's the silent episode, as a lot of people are calling it. Most of it is from the point of view of Theo, who is deaf, and then the parts that aren't from his POV are still silent. No dialogue is being spoken. Just jumping in with that because that's the thing everybody's talking about. It's very well presented. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, where do y'all want to start?
Not only did I think it was great, I watch most things with subtitles on anyway, just because like half the time I watch a lot of different languaged shows. So I watch a lot of dubbed things. I watch a lot of subtitled things. I also watch a lot of British shows, and sometimes, good Lord, there's some things that I'm having a hard time tracking. So I watch a lot of subtitles, so that didn't take me out at all. And the way it was shot, and it was so brilliantly done and carried throughout the episode that it, like we said, it revealed characters. It talked about, you established a lot of things. It gave you kind of a point of view from Theo. This was probably, building up to this episode, this was my favorite episode thus far of the show.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, the way that, because I can watch subtitle things, like you're saying, but if I'm really tired or it's been a long day, it's kind of hard because you want to track what's going on screen, but you also have to read. And same day I watched this, I was a little overworked, but prior to trying to watch this, I tried to watch Squid Game, and I could not, because I didn't know that there was a dubbed version of it also. I just couldn't, pay attention enough to stay, invested. And, so I went to Only Murders a little later in the day, and I was, and like you said, I was following it well enough. I didn't seem like my eyes were, glued to either the subtitle or that the subtitle, well, not subtitle, so the text at the bottom was, pulling me away from what was going on to each scene. It seemed very easy to follow. And, the episode, like seemingly every episode of this show, was a masterpiece. And it was really cool to, I think, also have an episode primarily from the perspective of a character that's not any of your three main leads, and have it, just come together so well and glue all these past events together so well.
Yeah, like you said, the fact that Theo is a character that appeared, I believe, in one episode in the background, and yet he's the bulk of this episode, and yet it ties everything together, and it all works perfectly. Clearly, this season was mapped out from beginning to end. I always praise those kind of shows that have a story arc that completely makes sense. They were planning it all along. They knew where they were going, and this episode proves that. I want to talk specifically about the opening scene of Theo as a child, because that was some hella acting, man. Like you felt that shit when Nathan Lane was screaming, and it's crazy because you didn't hear the screaming, but you knew he was. And he's trying to get his son to hear this music, and he can't, obviously. And he's grabbing him, and the kid doesn't know how to react. And then, Teddy breaks down. It's a very powerful scene. It's sort of a little glimmer into the relationship these two have, which carries on as we discover the truth about Teddy and the operation that they're involved in. But I just wanted to bring that scene up if you guys had any thoughts on it.
Yes. As a parent, there is times where you get so frustrated, so overwhelmed with emotions that uh, that feeling comes about. Now, I have never grabbed my child and shake the shit out of them and screamed in their face, but it's like those feelings are there, and he just wants Teddy. Teddy wants Theo to share in his love of music, and he feels it's almost like a guilt. Like he feels responsible for Teddy being able to not being able to hear these things. He's missing out on what is one of his uh, things. One of the things that Teddy loves the most is music. I mean, that's the reason he's invested in musical theater and like all. He loves music. So for Teddy to not be able to enjoy, or for Theo to not be able to enjoy something that he loves so much, it it like makes him feel guilty. And then he's trying to basically force him into being able to hear it. And then once again, the guilt, like he feels so shitty for, screaming at his kid for something that he can't even help. And it was very powerful.
Yeah, it really was, and it's one of those things that shapes well shows you a lot about the character for one. That deep down he does legitimately care about his son, but he wants control over things so badly. And this one thing, like you said, that's such a big part of his life. He can't,
That's
he
a
can't
great way
share
to
with
put
his
it.
son. Yeah,
No, you nailed it. He loves him, but he wants control.
he absolutely. Like we have little scenes where he's like, I look out for you, you don't look out for me, things like that. He's so controlling, and perhaps even seemingly doesn't realize it. But that's their dynamic, and he's trying his best to be a good father, but on the other hand, he's also this manipulative. You know, I'm thinking at this point almost, yeah, likely mob boss who's a grave robber and has his son involved in some very bad things.
And that is obviously the big reveal. Angel is Teddy, and he is the one. He's a grave robber, and Theo's part of that, and he's been for a long time. And all the stuff with Tim Kono and all. I mean, it all comes full circle. I guess we'll jump to the big reveal. Zoe took a ring that belonged to the family. Uh, Teddy found out, got mad, wanted it back. Theo went to get it. We have a scene, and we talked a little bit about this before we recorded. And I want you guys, feel free to go into how much you want in terms of that scene. But Zoe is on the roof. Her and Theo have this conversation, and it leads in her falling to her death. Theo did not mean to kill her. It was an accident. She sort of it became sort of a little pushing match, but based on the way it was shot, it didn't look like he pushed her that damn hard. It didn't even look like he pushed her, but that was a shitty roof. The way it's designed, like my God. But the fact that that whole scene was done sort of, from the death point of view, you didn't hear all the things that was happening. She falls to her death. Tim Kono saw it, and Teddy straight threatens his ass and threatens the whole crew. He's like, well, I will kill Mabel. I'll kill everybody if you say anything. So that explains the Tim Kono stuff. But like you said, Larry, Teddy has some power and probably some muscle, and it's going to be interesting where that goes. But going to the roof scene, because that's the big reveal. That's the big shocking, oh my God, now we know the truth. Yeah, go.
We called that shit. Like I had mentioned Teddy, or not Teddy. We figured Teddy was Angel, but the whole Theo being the one that knocked Zoe off the roof. Now, I didn't anticipate it being an accident. I anticipated, he had feelings for her, which he did, but she used those to kind of manipulate him. They, she, and we were talking about it right before we started recording. Her character is become, I don't like her now. Like I don't feel sorry for her dying. However, it does intrigue me quite a bit as to her past, because she got an argument with Oscar basically saying, yeah, you're the fucking help. I feel like I'm dating the help. So she has this superiority complex. On top of that, she's, flirting with the Greek boy. And they also show in the first couple episodes where they were flashing back, she was flirting with Tim also. So she's clearly, I'm curious as to what shaped her as a character. And I'm, with a couple episodes left, I'm sure that we'll get at least a little bit of that because they've already showed us kind of who it is, what's happening. So I am curious as to her character now more than ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But in that scene, like you said, where they threatened Tim, it kind of shows him in a new light. But I kind of figured that we were going to get a little bit of that. Like we know that dude was always kind of an asshole, according to everyone. That nobody really liked him, but he and Mabel seemed to legitimately be friends. And I was wondering what caused him to back away and why he was friends with the whole crew as well. So why wouldn't he confess to the murder? And I suspected that it may have been like he's protecting them. Why he won't mention what he saw. And in that moment, and this just kind of confirms, like, okay, he's not only trying to protect himself, he's trying to protect Mabel as well. And I got to say that was some of the most threatening sign language I ever saw. When like when Teddy is, not when Teddy, when Theo is signing out Mabel's name.
That was some dark shit.
It was, yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, man, he's in deep, like, clearly at this point, when they're still like, what was it? They're in their early 20s or their teens. Like, apparently he's like heavily embedded in what his dad does at this point, because he very coldly did that.
Yeah, I think that, and we talked about it too, that reveals not only Teddy's character, but Theo. Like, he was so, when he pushed her off the roof, he didn't intentionally like shove her. He basically like shoved her back. And I don't think that his intent, clearly, because he comes running down, throws up, like he did not mean to kill her. However, he has just as much animosity towards Tim as Teddy is showing. So like you said, when he signed out Mabel, it made me feel like he hates Mabel just as much. Like, I don't know why, but he does not like that crew, and he has zero problem with throwing any of them under the bus.
It was interesting because there's definitely, and we got like you said, we got little glimpses of it with the Hardy Boys, that crew. They seem to be, they would go around, they would steal shit. They were sort of assholes, and maybe that's part of it. He didn't like them for that reason, or he had some issues with them for that. Also, he liked Zoe, clearly. I don't think he necessarily cared about anybody else. Tim, nobody liked Tim outside of Mabel. He's the only one that truly liked him, and so yeah, a lot of those dynamics are very interesting. There was a little break in the episode, very small but very brilliant. The Scrabble game, and then all the Charles stuff. It was well placed in a very serious episode. In other words, we're going to have a 30-minute serious drama filled heart-wrenching episode, but we're still a comedy, and we got to have a little bit of comedy and a little bit of levity. And God, man, the Scrabble game, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my God. And at first I was like, is he getting it? Is he understanding what she's trying to say? And then in the end, yeah, and I'm dying, man. I'm like, holy shit. And then finally in the end, they're like, oh yeah, let's hook up. And so I'm loving that relationship. But yeah, any thoughts on sort of the comedy aspects of the episode?
I thought that scene in particular was genius because they conveyed so much by not having any dialogue in that scene, because it shows them at a place where they're comfortable with each other in this relationship, where they just she comes in the room, they have their little dance, they play their game of Scrabble, they sort of hint some things at each other, all without any dialogue. And it just shows a level of comfort, their relationship going from this awkward, clumsy thing to the beginning to like a legit relationship. And that was just very cool, the way that whole scene played out. And also the Scrabble thing was funny.
I thought too, I don't know if it was a metaphor or just well placed. You start the episode with Teddy trying to force Theo to be able to hear music. But during the parts where they were, they should have had dialogue, the only thing you could hear was music.
That's true.
So I thought that was artistically done. I don't know. I'm sure it was done on purpose, but I thought that was very well done. But you talk about Oliver, everything Martin Short does, like his facial expressions when he's like trying to grab his phone to text and let them know that he's on his way back upstairs, like everything that they were doing made me laugh. And like the whole scene
And he
when
was doing it in code.
yeah,
The warnings.
and the whole sequence where they were in the funeral home and they're basically Theo's robbing that body, and he asks Selena Gomez, he asked Mabel, he's like, "Are you having a stroke?" Grave Roger. What's that? Like, it's like that kind of stuff. Just his facial expressions. They were all. I just love Martin Short.
The ending, we get two big sort of shocking things. First, we get the password to the phone, which is going to be a big deal, and we're going to learn a lot. We know how to get into Tim Kono's phone. Charles gets that. But the other big sort of twist, and I don't know where this goes, is Theo has Mabel and Oliver. And yeah, what the hell, man? Where does that go? What does Theo do? We only got 3 episodes left, and we know we are getting a season 2. It is confirmed. So wherever it leads, it will be setting up a second season. But yeah, that final sequence, this has probably been one of the bigger cliffhanger episodes that we've had.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was just saying, like, that was a surprising ending. I didn't expect it in this episode with Theo taking them hostage. I am curious how they get out of that one, and very curious how willing, how far Theo is willing to go to cover this whole thing up. I guess we'll see shortly. Hell of a cliffhanger.
Well, and I think too, we were talking about the seeming mob ties. Like, it's for him to kidnap people and take them somewhere. That's not something that you just. I mean, I'm sure anybody could do it, but he seems so comfortable with it and throwing people in the back of this van and knowing where to take them. It's how would he call his dad? It's texting his dad, being like, "Hey, Dad, guess what?" So his dad probably told him where to take him. It's like this whole mob thing.
Yeah, and it seems like, and his dad even mentions comments on it too. He's like, stalking people a pastime for kids your age. What's up with this? Because he seemed too comfortable with everything he was doing. And
Theo was able to get in their apartment, get take the pictures. He's, he gets them, he captures them. I don't know if you guys felt it or not, but when he's texting, it was so well done. When he was texting his dad, they know. Even though there's no dialogue, you almost internally felt screaming, like him yell, "Dad, they know." You know what I mean? Like, you felt that shit,
And not only that, but watching him just kind of stalk them and like spying on them with the binoculars and everything, like up to the van scene, it started to feel like an episode of Dexter. It was that, like in intense stuff. He just seemed so in his element. And just him professing that hatred for everybody in the building, talking with the guy and everything, like he looked like he felt that for real.
Speaking of Dexter, we are doing Dexter, right? It's coming back in like a month.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I think it's Showtime, right? We still got Showtime.
Should be Showtime.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
I was, we talk about Tim, like the way the episode starts, like you feel bad for him, and you get the whole not Tim, we're
Theo.
I don't know, yeah,
all T names: Teddy, Tim, Theo,
Oscar, Table, Toey, but when you feel bad for Theo with the way it starts, and then you get the whole speech with Teddy last episode where he basically shows how ruthless he is. He digs his dad up for a fucking coin. Like, it's so he shows how not good of a guy he is. But so you feel bad for Theo, but throughout this episode, he kind of shows that he's probably 30. So it's no longer his dad's fault that he's the way he is. You know, it's one of those things where he's adult making adult choices, spying on people, grave robbing, helping his dad. It's he's becoming he's a product of his environment. However, he's becoming his own evil kind of. He's coming into his own kind of evil at this.
Do you think that could be what happens? Is that he could become he could get away with everything? Maybe Teddy takes all the fall and Theo becomes this new kingpin or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out.
I wouldn't put it past it, because not that people with special needs are incapable of doing awful things, but it's one of those things where there's so much evidence that could basically all be placed on Teddy, or will Teddy, by the end of this, throw his own kid under the bus to save himself? Like,
well, yeah, and it's one of those things where, and that could be the a horrifying part of the ending if Theo gets away with it, if they're only able to implement someone like Teddy, and if we end this season where the season started, it's up with, instead of Mabel and Tim Kono in the elevator, it's Mabel and Theo in the elevator, and they don't have enough evidence to prove that Theo did anything. You know, so he knows that they know, and given the way Theo's acted so far, we know that he wants to silence them. And, you know, so if we're going into a season 2 like that, you know, that'd be a rough place for Mabel and the crew to be, you know, beginning of season 2.
Yeah. But yeah, hell of an episode. Did not expect that. I love that they didn't promote it. Like, you know, the episode dropped and everybody's like, whoa, like everyone online, you know, sort of blew up. Everyone's like, oh shit, have you seen this episode? They could have, you know, if this was like, you know, network television, there would have been 50 promotional videos already spoiling everything and being like, you want the truth about Zoe's death. You know, the silent episode, they would have spoiled everything. But, you know, I love that. That's one of the cool things about streaming as well, is that
yeah, they would have like Theo and Zoe sitting on a roof together or something.
yeah. But yeah, great episode. 3 left. Any other thoughts?
I don't have any other.
No, like I said, we called. Like I assumed that Theo was involved just because of his age and everything else, but I did not anticipate it going the route it did.
Well, I will say this. I'm not 100% sure, because, you know, this show is real good about taking those twists and turns, and I'm not 100% sure that Theo's involved in Tim Kono's death. Like,
I'm not either. I agree with you there. Yeah. The Tim Kono situation, I think there's still some mystery to the details of it. But yeah, I agree. Any theories?
Well, there are a few other adults who, you know, grew up with them in here. You know, like we're still. I keep bringing them up, you know, only partially jokingly, but, you know, there's Martin Short's character, his son, you know, would have grown up with these kids also, and
that's true though. It's true, and he doesn't like them. Remember, he's like, Mabel. You know, he was the one that was warning. Like I said, that little crew was not. They were assholes.
Yeah. So there's a few more characters that could be responsible.
I
still
think that. Oh well, I think by the end of this, we'll find out that Tim killed himself. I think that he's going to feel so much guilt that at the end we're going to be revealed that he did actually kill himself, and that the new mystery is going to be unraveling the whole Zoe thing and what they did afterwards. If that is, and you've been calling that for several weeks now, I've heard no one else bring that up. Like, you maybe, if that's true, and it very well might be, because it seems like it could be, you're the only one I've heard that's made that call.
And it seems more and more likely every episode as we get all these different factors, people who hated Tim, or that Tim owed money to, or that Tim was being threatened by. You know, so much pressure on one person, it becomes more and more likely every episode.
But yeah, Can't wait for next week. One of my favorite parts of the week is watching this show. Unfortunately, it's only 30 minutes. It goes by very quickly. But yeah, check out the channel. We're started up Big Sky again, so check that out if you're watching Big Sky. And if you're not watching Big Sky, the review is still, I would say, entertaining. So go listen. We appreciate everyone listening, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.